Hello, can you hear me? So this is not the first slide. Oh, look, that's the presentation. How do you like it? Have you learned anything yet?
Good. Yeah.
All right, we're done.
Thank you, Dave. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
David.
Let's go ahead. All right, we're going to talk about product management. I've been doing product management since 1996. I got an economics degree, and I think I've done a lot of things in my career, but I think my central focus has been product management and the product management mindset, and not just for external products. I've got a lot of experience in external products, but I also have a good deal of experience in internal products and managing internal systems, and then adjusting internal systems. So what we're going to get into, and we're really going to cover, we're going to look at the world of product. We're going to look at the world, how people look at product, how people decide to take in that product. And we're going to look at the product project management mindset differences. And certainly, what I really want to dig into is I want to dig into the life cycle and adoption curve a bit more, because regardless if you take a product mindset for how you're managing your projects, an understanding of how people will start to adopt what you build, I think is really important. And I think it'll have a couple aha moments about what you might be able to do to help with the rollouts. So I love questions. I love comments. I love thoughts. So please don't hesitate to chat in your thoughts, your ideas, your comments. I love it when people, want to debate back and forth. I just ask if you have something critical to mention, just do it respectfully. But please don't hesitate to turn off your mic and interrupt me midstream. Don't hesitate to chat in your thoughts and ideas as we dig into this, what I think is a critical concept moving forward in today's rapidly changing environments. So why is it important? So why is this product mindset so important? If you have some time, pick up a book. This is the book to get you to understand why this product mindset is so important. I'll give you a great example. I've been big into AI-driven content recently. I think it's really, really cool. It's popped, like BuzzFeed laid off all their content marketers, and now they just have some people using Chat GTP. There's tools now to create presentations, although this presentation wasn't created with Chat GTP, but there's a good chance that the write-up, the description and the learning objectives might have been done by it. I'm not going to tell you whether or not. But yesterday, I had the marketing manager come to me and say, "Oh, I'm going to this conference." It was an AI and content conference from a organization, a business that called themselves, marketing for AI and content. And I'm like, "Darn, man, they got themselves set up really fast." And Laura's like, "No, they've been around for a long time. They just got their pop." So here's the skinny. It's very difficult to predict what is going to pop and when it's going to pop, what is going to be needed and when it's going to be needed. There's no such thing as a guru that sits on the mountain and tells you what's going to happen. Complexity has significantly blew apart the idea of focus group analysis. You have to test and you have to learn. You have to test and you have to learn. And why is the improbable so likely? And what are the mindsets you need to take in order to keep up? So the product mindset is important because it matters more about what you're doing and who's going to be impacted by it, and are they ready to be impacted by it. Now, this is he's a pretty snobby. The book is actually in a snobby tone. He could be a little annoying, but that book is a baseline to understand the dynamics of change and how to potentially protect yourself, and what are some of the skills to protect yourself and your organization through that change. And as you hear me talking, what I want you to be thinking about is the work that's done before you execute a product or a project. In the world of customer experience, CX, the world of user experience, UX, and even the world of employee experience, they call this EX now, becomes critically important as you look to what it is that you're supposed to be, what it is that these people want, and how do they want it. And that world, is kind of confusing, and it's been confusing. The world of wireframes and prototypes, the world of service design, the world of lean startup, the world of design thinking. So as you listen to this, kind of look at this from a foundational mindset that you put in place as you start looking at that future state analysis, or as you look at the defining, trying to figure out what it is that you're going to stick in the product machine or the project machine. So what is a product? It can be a service, or it can be a product that ultimately produces outcome. Now, the word profit is here, but for internal products, the word you want to be thinking about is productivity. The return on internal projects is increases in productivity. Companies make profits as they increase their internal productivity of the people working within the organization. So you have cost of goods sold in the business, you have general and administrative. A lot of us in the project world will be ultimately categorized as general administrative. If you can keep that G&A tight and highly productive as it services the cost of goods sold people, there's a power in that from a profitability standpoint. So yes, external product managers are thinking in terms of return, which is profit. I would even say that initially it's a return based on revenue. And internal product management mindset, the internal product management mindset needs to really look at productivity. And enhancing the productivity of the people that utilize this service, and ultimately with that productivity enhance the services of the external customers that are being that need to be serviced. So a service can be a CRM system and all the interlinkings for that CRM system. That is a product. That is a product that goes through a life cycle. Your inventory control system is a product with a life cycle. And that product as a good can also have a service orientation to it. So a good or a service that yields revenue externally or yields productivity internally, and you're offering up to particular people. Your accounting system goes to the accounting group, your CRM goes to your salespeople, and maybe some of your marketing folks, maybe some of your sales enablement folks. And we're getting into the idea of understanding the persona of the people you're trying to work towards the end of the presentation. Again, comments, thoughts, questions, additional reading materials you want to share with folks. So good, things that have to be built, services, things that have to be performed. What's interesting here is when you look at this, remember, there's a lot of differences here. You have goods companies like manufacturers, like auto manufacturers, or manufacturer of food like General Mills. Then you have service companies like financial services companies or mortgage service companies. And it's interesting how they operate differently, including how they operate differently internally. So knowing if you work for an organization that produces goods or an organization that produces services also changes your mindset related to this, how you develop things internally and where the mindsets are internally. But ultimately, as you see what's going on because of cloud and digital transformation, that's the dreaded DX. So now I've given you CX, UX, EX, and DX. You probably like, what's this guy? Acronym America. But ultimately, because of digital transformation, these two are becoming almost completely interwoven. Everything is both a good and a service. I have a bed, but the bed also has an app. And the app tells me how I'm sleeping, how I'm adjusting the things, what I do when I'm asleep, blood pressure, and all that great stuff. Oh, great, Tom. Thank you for sharing. Continuous discovery habits. We're going to get into that. And again, that's the thought process. You're taking a product mindset. So you're discovering, what are you discovering? Why, what you should be thinking as you're doing that discovery. Tom, thank you for that share. That's awesome. So I took a class at MIT back in like 2000 about product management philosophy. Rebecca Henderson, I think, I can't remember exactly her name. Amazing, amazing 2-day class. And this slide comes from that program. As I look at it from an external product theory perspective, I got 3 things I'm constantly filtering. What are people doing outside right now? Competitors. What's going on? You know, how are they maneuvering around the marketplace? What can I do? What can I do? Am I going to buy something to make it happen? Am I going to partner to make it happen? You know, am I going to build to make it happen? That organizational capability is critically important because it affects how you want to take something to market. And ultimately, anybody in the product space has to understand value. Are you creating value? Value is a deep term. There's a whole study of value called axiology. What you have to think about, the value is somebody's going to return time and or money or both in exchange for what you've got. Remember, internally, as you define what it is you're going after, the value creation ultimately comes a return on time. Are they going to utilize what it is that you're building? And as I talked about before, is it going to increase productivity? So even though this is the picture of an external product management mindset, I mean, this has become like system 2 thinking when I get in the flow within Daniel Kahneman's study. This is in me. This is part of my flow on a consistent basis. And it's interesting how your mind operates when you get into this flow. When you're doing an internal product management class, you know, and you're looking at agile product management, they change the circles a bit. They have this desirability. So is there a desire internally for what you're thinking about doing? Because remember, in either internal or external products, you have to start talking to the customer. So this desirability thing is very important. When you're looking at value on the external side, remember, you have to talk to the customer. Now, what's interesting here is viability. And viability was a tough word for me for a while. I actually looked it up a couple times and read the definition again and again, because viability and feasibility drives me crazy a little bit because it doesn't make sense. Aren't they both the same thing? But viability means, can it scale? Can it repeat? Will it ultimately work? Because feasibility, you can do just about any. This is the thing with feasibility internally. Let's put it mild. We can do just about anything now. It's crazy. Rebecca Henderson, Leo, Rebecca Henderson. That was the name of the professor. Now this, remember, is 20, I think it was 2020 or 2021, but man, she was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyways, feasibility, I don't necessarily think, you know, I think feasibility now is internally is everything and anything is feasible. I mean, with all the coding capabilities and tool capabilities and cloud-based capabilities, you know, unless you're trying to do a time machine, or maybe you want to do the machine that takes you from one place to another, like Star Trek. I forgot what that machine was called. Viability is to me is really critical internally. It's one thing that you can do it, but can you scale it and repeat it? And can you scale it and repeat it in a cost-effective way? Viability turns to me into the word automation. Automation is the greatest productivity tool known to mankind currently, people kind. AI is a form of automation. So as you're trying to consider what you're doing to increase productivity of those people that provide services, or the system that actually touches the customer directly, is it viable? Can it scale and can it repeat? Or do you not have the organizational capabilities in the last slide, which would be the feasibility, the talent to actually do that? So 2 great perspectives here. And as we go deeper into this viability thing should be in the back of your mind. So as you're working through looking at what's going on around you. And a really great way to do this is looking at yourself. We are all products. Our career is a product. What's our viability as a product? What's our feasibility as a product? What do we desire going forward as a career, our career as a product? And then looking at what other people are doing and where I might want to take my product. Making this analysis just on you as a career product is a great way to practice this technique and practice this mindset. And I reinforce the fact that hopefully you come out of this seeing the fact that you are a product as a career. And that's not a bad thing. And if you think that way, remember, product management is about being proactive. Product managers ultimately, whether internal or external, are proactive people. You know, most of us are reactive, and a lot of project work is reactive. And when it comes to our careers, we're also very reactive. So as we start adjusting, so what we want to be thinking is, and I used to talk about this all the time in the company I ran, I don't care ultimately how long it takes to get something done or if there's delays. I just want to make sure the outcome provides value, that we're actually doing something that's going to provide value. And it's going to impact in the term of productivity or increase sales. So this product mindset, less reactive at risk and issues management. Interesting. Give me some more thoughts on that, Jennifer. I want to hear what you have to say about that. And if you want to interrupt, go ahead. And the thing is that a product manager should be thinking about those risks consistently. And that's part of the value creation you got to be thinking about. So project management, you're a general manager. You're a general manager and you have to manage this business based on what you were given. Product management is, I don't necessarily care how you make it happen, but here's how you have to make it happen. So how do you combine those two elements internally is about adjusting the mindset, especially around the initiation phase, and even whether you're using Agile or not. Because Agile is a very good product management methodology when something's already been discovered. And then it can help rediscover certain things that happen during the course of the product. There is no Agile method currently for understanding what it is that you should actually build. You know, some people call it Scrum Zero, but there's no real definition of Scrum Zero. What I'm getting at here is part of the product mindset is for us to look out and start grabbing hold of what is the missing link right now, which is understanding what it is we should build using the 3 circles. And then ultimately, what is the impact? And then you go in the project where you follow an Agile method, which now it's you don't worry about the triple constraint. You worry about time box, and you worry about being able to attack based on emergent requirements within that box. Because Agile, there's still a box, and someone made a decision to produce that box for some reason. And you can adjust the basis of the box, but what I'm getting at in product management is looking at what it is that you're trying to do. So what we want to minimize, ultimately, a really good product management wants to minimize the amount of work and maximize the impact of the stuff that you are releasing. And then enhance and update, enhance and adjust over time. Externally, I'm a prototype person. Probably drive you crazy, but if you ever took a class from ASPE training, a lot of the new products were basically prototypes. I built a brochure, built a website, and said, here's the product. Are you interested? And then built it if there was interest. And then the initial deliveries would give us an idea of how to enhance the product over time. And then this product would scale as the customers wanted to scale it. But what would happen, and it would happen all the time, and it would drive me crazy, is that the developer would build the product anyways. I'm like, why are you doing that? I have no input, no feedback on whether this thing is actually impactful, well, whether it's going to create value. And then you built this thing, it's heavy. And then you're going to walk in and you have no idea really what folks are looking for. You're going to use those iterations to get a handle on what it is that should be built. The more you can control what you're building, this is agile mindset, but and focus on the initial value. This is why if you do design thinking in its proper way, you're going to be able to test, the concept of the initiatives you're trying to run at. In the way that when you attack the initiative, that you're going to have maximum, you're going to have a good opportunity to get some real impact. Because normally what happens, this happens in startup companies as well. It drives me crazy. We see these, unicorns. It's just luck. Go back to the black swan. The unicorns you see aren't because those entrepreneurs were gurus. It was luck. True, really well-managed companies are those that live in extremely difficult competitive environments and are able to manage through those on a consistent basis. Or the entrepreneur who had to pivot 4 times until he found the repeat and scale necessary. And that's really what we're trying to say here, is that I don't want you to repeat and scale viability, ultimately, until I know that there's desirability. And if I found that right desirability, then you repeat and scale. And the nice thing about Agile, it's a repeat and scale project management methodology that allows for re-looking on a consistent basis. So these are the kind of the project mindset and the product mindset. What we want to get to is solving problems. We want to solve the problems. And those problems, as we implement features, we're solving problems because we're talking, we're asking, we're curious. A lot of cases, a business analyst position can operate like an internal product manager. When done appropriately, your senior BAs really become and can become the out-of-project product managers utilizing these skill sets to get into your project mechanisms, something that's got more impact. That still doesn't stop you from having to do some of these techniques while you're scaling and while you're producing. But this is the thought process. We've gotten to a point now where things are going to live, and we have to figure out better ways to test what it is we're going to put into place. Because I haven't even got into the idea of something that succeeds. What happens when something succeeds? In project management world, you drop it off and away you go. You don't really know if it succeeded or not, because that's supposed to be operations. The problem is that operations is flattening to the point where there's not many people to ultimately manage through what it is that you delivered. So the other element of this product management mindset is looking at each thing you are doing and understanding that that system itself has a life cycle, including the idea of killing it. So I've seen quality in the center of project management triple constraint triangle. Is quality also the center? So here's the, you're going to kill me, Jenny. You're going to kill me. And again, this is where the debate comes in. I want you to debate this yourself. I don't care about quality until I know somebody wants it. I really don't. And so my goal initially is to find out if somebody wants it, then build quality into it. The cost of quality is significant. The cost of perfectionism is significant. So that's what I'm saying in this mindset, that quality is an output after you figured out what it is that people want. And early adopters expect bad quality. Early adopters expect things to be wonky, but they expect that what's been delivered will produce productivity for them. That's why you get all these freaking softwares that go up there and, sharewares and people working on it, because they expect that. Those early adopters want to play in that space. So what I'm saying is if you have an internal project management mindset and you understand there's early adopters, maybe you build for the early adopters first, let them tinker and play, and they'll help you build quality into what you're doing. And this may be heresy to some of you, and I get that. And I just want you to debate it. You can debate it with me. You can debate it inside yourself, but there is a cost to quality. And it's a cost that can get you in trouble, just like the example of the poor course developer who built the course, took hours and hours and hours to build it, and then nobody bought it. Even though I told them not to build it. Don't build it yet. You don't have to build it. And they were on a royalty model instead of a, cost per hour model. And yet they still built it. Because that's the mindset. That's the fear factor. And so from a product management mindset, I will attack quality once I know it's repeatable and scalable. So that's something we could debate internally. Jenny, if you have any side thoughts on that, let me know. But that's kind of the thought process there. So we're going to get into product life cycles next. Everything has this. This is life right here. This is our lives. We ultimately, our physical bodies die. We die. Products die. Projects die. Even if it was a successful delivery, they die. The problem is that we don't want to just let them die. We want to manage them through their life cycle. And we want to adjust them. So maybe, you don't have to go from scratch again because you managed something that you did through its life cycle and you can update it better because there's somebody monitoring and watching that solution through its life cycle. Everything has a life cycle and things change in a life cycle. And I'll give you an example of this in training. If I'm doing something at that development introductory level in training, I don't want to build a big fat training class. I want to find a really smart person who can transfer knowledge very effectively and make a lightweight material because there's going to be a bunch of people who are aggressive, intelligent, and excited to learn this. As that topic grows in interest, take for instance, Agile fundamentals, the materials become much more important. It needs more depth. There's got to be learning design associated with it. There's got to be other means by which you're going to use that content. So it's you switching over into a content-driven situation with somebody facilitating more so than a presentation facilitator with a small base of content. That's the maturity factor. And remember, throughout this entire life cycle, disruption can occur. And this isn't the life cycle of the project. This is life cycle after you developed. You introduced it right there. And then from there, anywhere between growth, maturity can be a significant disruption. And because of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, disruptions are happening faster and faster. So once it's deployed, if you have a product mindset, you're working through that to deal with the disruptions that occur based on what's currently built. This life cycle concept is very important. And this is what I use for most of my product management life. Carlene, it's VUCA, V-U-C-A. If you type it into Google, V-U-C-A, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And if someone has a moment, they can type it into Google or something and put a link to whether it's Wikipedia or something else. I really appreciate it. So this S-curve is also from Rebecca Henderson. And everything goes through what's called an S-curve. There's a ferment stage, a takeoff stage, a maturity stage. And because of that, we also have to know there's different personas that operate at each one of these stages. And there's different needs for that service or the project as it go through those stages. And at anywhere in the stage, this curve could be disrupted by another S-curve. How do we manage through that? How do we communicate that in our projects? And I think what you can do from this, first off, from the future state analysis perspective, thank you, Leo, for doing that. I really appreciate it. From a future state analysis perspective, most cases, you're building in the ferment stage. So you're really not looking at the life cycle when you're analyzing what it is that you should be doing. You're looking at the viability of the kickoff. But when whatever you did is passed into production, and utilization, this life cycle comes to bear. And what I think happens very poorly within companies is two things for internal project management. So the first thing is the introduction of the service. It's like a big bang. You just want to throw it out there and everybody's going to use it. Everybody it's intended for is going to use it. Guess what? That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Because there are different people who do different things based on the stage by which they see that service. So I think there's a failure around how to introduce what it is you're doing. And I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, or anybody that's tried doing a limited introduction at a ferment stage to those people that really want to do it. A lot of agile transformations have used this mindset where they picked a few teams initially who were really fired up about being agile and had those teams operate and then kind of bring in the waves based on the theory of how a wave begins and ultimately how a product goes up to maturity. And then as anybody has done this internally with an internal solution to the point that they had to kill it and rebirth it. So that's why this is much more important once you've deployed than it is on building. On building, that future state analysis that goes back to the lightweight creation of value, controlling your impetus to make it really good at first, and then you build in that quality. So what we want to look at here is technology adoption. So any questions? Anybody want to open up their mic at this point? Any thoughts, ideas? Anything sound crazy to you? Don't be uncomfortable. I'm using a technique called silence to see if I can pull anything out. All right, we're going to keep driving then. Technology adoption curve. So, and also, by the way, let me take a step back. The second thing that frustrates me, I said the first thing that frustrates me, the fact that the big bang instead of the idea of looking at how you can roll something out smartly based on the personas. The second thing is a very poor job of marketing of what it is you're building. There should be a better way, a better system for internal marketing of what it is that you're doing. You guys, project managers call this a communications plan, but your communications plans for those people that are in the project. I don't know of very many communication plans that are communicating what it is that you're trying to do, what it's going to do for people, why they should participate. You have to market what it is you're doing. What really drove me crazy is when someone would do an enhancement on a product, especially in my business, and they wouldn't put it on the brochure. You just updated the content. It costs you $20,000 to do that, and you don't even advertise that you updated the content. Makes no sense. So there has to be a better job within this product mindset of realizing if there's an adoption curve, then there's an opportunity to market. Isn't that a part of change management project? Here's the thing, Jennifer. Change management seems to me to be more about getting people prepared for the change. And the people that are in the production part of it. Does it do a good job of market? Does change management professionals, do they have the marketing skills to actually market what the output of the change is going to be? You're right. I mean, you're a good point. That's where it should fit, but are they skilled to do it?
I would think that most project managers do go through some type of change management, as we do here at Goodyear, in order to understand the behaviors that need to change for whatever project or product you have in the pipeline and that you might be implementing.
Now, have you done the communication? Have you done the marketing plan for that then? Like maybe a webinar series on what's going to happen? And I know your guys are extremely busy, or maybe a short brochure on what the enhancements are going to be and why those are going to be important for you?
So there is a specific marketing department that would handle external changes,
External.
like say we're having something to the customer, and then we have a communications department that would handle internal communications to help us be prepared for the change and any training or anything else that we would need to take.
How does it work? Does it work really well?
It does work really well. We're able to be more agile as a company,
Yeah.
having all that preparation in place.
Yeah.
So
I'll
it's
be
a
honest
good
with
technique.
Jennifer, this is the first I've heard of a company actually doing this and doing it well. You have the marketing department that does the external marketing about different tires, different changes in the tires, to whether it's the wholesalers or the retailers. And then you have an internal communications group that is preparing those, working in the systems about what's going to happen, why it's valuable.
Yeah, it does. It works out well. As long as everyone stacks hands and says, this is a great way to govern the project, in the end, it's quite successful.
Great. Excellent. Great share. A good thing for other folks to look at, because that's taking a product mindset based on trying to roll something out and getting both the internal people to understand the value attributes associated with it. And then, of course, your external customers being told. And I can see that as you're talking about fitting into the change management mindset. And I think I would just adjust some of the language around the titles of a change manager. Should also be an internal product marketer or an internal solution ambassador or something like that. But great share, Jennifer. That was awesome. So here's the skinny, because I usually call it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. This has it broken out a little bit more. There's no debate. This happens so since 1996, I've been doing product management. So what's that, 27 years? Now, never seen anything different. Never seen anything different. So as you're rolling out a new CRM system, there'll be just about 50% of your people that do not want or not interested in engaging that solution. Even in change management, even if you're communicating it, they might use it. They might find a separate way to use it. So if they're going to use it, they're going to use it very limitedly. They may actually find a workaround for it. What happens, though, is you give it to all of these people at once. What usually happens in product management externally is I start my marketing going after those people I know are going to be the early adopters. And then from there, if it picks up, I can then go after a larger community, realizing that, a portion of that community will not jump at it. Some will. And then as the social proof of this product works, more sessions, more people talking about it, it gets into bigger companies, then everybody follows. So my thought process here is an overlay of your change management strategy is, do you look at the crossing of the chasm and deploy new solutions to those that will engage it and let those people become your evangelists to the rest of the organization and spread it out that way instead of saying, thou shall use it right now. Opinion leaders. Okay, great. So I love this. So Jennifer, type in there, you actually have a role called opinion leader. So there's evangelists within your organization. I love it. This is awesome.
They're not actually defined roles, but we do have, we always ask a question when we do our training, who do you go to for a problem? Who do you go to for advice? And that's how we find our opinion leaders in different parts of our organization.
And then you use them as your early adopters?
Yeah.
Man, you should be teaching, you should be presenting this. PMI Cleveland, they grab Jennifer to do a case study. Yes, that is the smart way of doing it. Because now you're looking inside the organization, which is really cool, because as an external product manager, Jennifer, I can't do that. I can't talk to everybody. But internally, you could talk to people and find the influencers. And those influencers, now the influencers can be really harsh. So this is the big bang curve. I don't like a big bang curve because usually it pops and dies and isn't deep. It isn't deep. I had this with a class I once did called Voice over IP Security, and we did it and it popped. and then it just died. This is usually a situation that it wasn't necessarily needed. It wasn't necessarily needed. The big crunch is what you folks probably deal with most of the time. You had it rolled out, you're trying to get people to go, then somebody puts a mandate down there, and the mandate happens, and everybody has to do it because of a mandate internally. Now, software companies play this game as well, because you're stuck. But this game really can only be played if you have some type of monopolistic or oligopoly type scenario where you can control the habits. Microsoft did this to us forever and continues to do this to us. So this is the big bang market adoption scenario, the fact that every time you roll out a new situation. So I kind of talked about it. Going forward, you should know how a product management differs when you're targeting people. Then you're messaging what you're doing differently to those targeted people. And in the change management program or the internal marketing program, your messaging is just as you push forward. An early adopter messaging is not going to fire up a late majority person. A late majority messaging is not going to fire up an early adopter. This is really critical from even a sales mindset. So in my world, from a sales perspective, I'll use the evangelist sale. It's the best sales model ever, where you get somebody internally to dig it, and then they message it for you and push it out for you. So when you're looking at business drivers, I love this. And I think you have to look at this too, because there's a balance, right? I talked about the fact that you got the feasibility or the organizational capability. You can't just build everything that the customer wants. And for risk reduction, you can't just throw everything in there possible. You have to have balance associated with cost benefit. You have to have balance regarding which of the offerings need more, and you have to manage an entire portfolio. So what a product manager has to do, and this is where business analysts get into trouble, is a truly successful business analyst is always going to be product focused, and so they lose some influence over the business people because they're not giving them that balance. And this is something that the project management world can really get into. You understand that business side extremely well, then how do you pull in the product stuff that we were talking about, and where is the balance? And get this whole balance comes into, from my perspective, return on quality. And this whole balance ties back to how fast you kill something. The hardest thing in product management is to kill something. You always think you can figure it out. You always think you can fix it. You always think you can tinker with it. Product managers who are subject matter experts, that's the kiss of death for them. I made this mistake. I fell in love with the product itself and not the business opportunity. As I grew up, I fell in love with, I don't mean to make this crass, but I fell in love with making money. And I'll change that to, I fell in love with engagement. The people actually wanted it. And so as you start moving into this product mindset, you want to fall in love with people utilizing and getting productivity out of it, out of what you're doing. Man, coming up with a new class idea that you see there's a pain point, getting it out to market from a training perspective, having people buy it. Oh, it's the best. It's the best feeling. And internally for internal product management, that's my hope as well. So, we talked about the triangle, right, Jenny? Is to align the triangle with the business perspective. And that's where I get in the quality side of things. And quality will ultimately be my last lever to create ultimate value, because quality then becomes more important as you go up the curve into, especially with the late folks. They're going to want to know it works. The late majority is going to be hypocritical. They're going to be conservative. They're going to be, you got to prove to me that it's actually going to work. So that quality element becomes so important. So I would do this more as a maybe a funnel if I redid this slide. And I really want to get into the fact at this point, it's a whole other presentation, but business models become important because of digital transformation. Digital transformation has affected this mindset because you do have to look at all the different business models that's available to you before you engage in the product analysis. And a business model is how you're going to go to market, that viability scenario. But now you can go to, even internally, you can go to market in multiple different ways. But that'll be for another presentation on digital transformation and IoT and AI. So we have the three elements. You're gonna fail. So I like to say that the business I built, ASPE, was built on the bones of 1,000 course failures. I would test 3 new products a month. Of those tests, about 20% would return the money I spent on them. And maybe 5 or 10% would actually increase a return. So my goal was to reduce the impact of those tests, because I took a black swan perspective, and this is where there was a lot of battle at the company internally with some of my business partners. They wanted to do more analysis at the beginning, and I wanted to reduce the cost and the profile of putting it to market and let the market do more analysis. And there's a pro and con. But I assumed failure. And if you assume failure and you utilize that as part of your learning, that ultimately gets you to where you need to be. I'll be done here in about 3 to 5 minutes. Open your mic if you have any thoughts or questions. The last piece here is understanding your customer. This is what it's all about. Product management mindset lives, breathes, and thinks like their customers. Why I do these presentations, I do most of them, if not all of them, for free, is I get to learn about you, my customer. You all are potential customers for what it is that SoftEd sells. But I'm not here to sell, I'm here to learn. I have my product management hat on. What are you asking about? What are you talking about? What elements of this do you already know? What elements of this that are already happening within companies? Where is the need? How many people would actually attend this topic? Those are things that I can learn and get close to my customer. Now, I can get close to the customer when they're in a class. That's great. But I also want to get close to potential customers who can understand what's going on with them. What has worked, what hasn't worked. This goes back to the opinion leaders. So internally, Jennifer, I love it. This opinion leader mindset is so cool, because you're looking at those customers that also have influence. So you have customers, then you have customers who have influence, and ultimately the influencers can become evangelists, which can speed up the adoption cycle and can drive trust in the adoption cycle. Now, remember, with anything, you've got to be really smart on the customer side and watch out for confirmation bias. Make sure that you're interviewing them separate of others. You're not bringing multiple people together. But don't ask the customer what they want. Ask them their problem. Great. Absolutely. What's going on? What are your challenges? Then you can observe them too, Tom, which is great. You can observe what's going on, how they're operating, where you see some inefficiencies. And then the best thing is a web product. And there's so much observation you could do from a website perspective. It's insane. I'm not even going to go into it because it freaks people out. But actually, right, they don't know what they want. I tell people this all the time. Your customers really don't know what they want. They know they have problems. Great share, Tom. I appreciate that. And ultimately, as you move into this space, this is another system 2, Daniel Kahneman's thinking fast and slow, is almost this becomes idea of personas becomes natural to you. You're naturally looking at and trying to understand those that you're servicing. So you can communicate it better, you can offer it better, you can figure out what's going on. So I have a persona for the project management folks. And I'm not going to go over it with you on this, but there is a persona. And it's a persona. And I'll tell you, one of the elements of the persona, though, is no crap. You folks don't want salesmanship or saleswomanship or salespersonship. You want fact, detail. You want authenticity. You know, we used to do a brochure style called the El Dello to project management. And it was like a report. It was the most boring brochure you could know. But man, that thing rocked because it resonated with you. There was no crapola. There was no flash. You hear flash all the time. You know, you have a sensitivity towards stuff that isn't right. You know, I'm not going to use a dirty word on this, but I think you know what you're saying. I actually have a detector here. That's my detector, and I can play it for you. So anyways, I have a pretty good understanding of your persona, and I also talk to you all the time. And then ultimately, quick, I'm not going to go through these slides too much, but remember, research is important because you want to get away from false positives and false negatives. And you want to protect yourself from confirmation bias. So you should be having a multitude of different researching techniques. When I was building content at ASPE, I had a 7-point indicator that I looked at to see if something was going to be hot. Are my instructors talking about it? Are people talking about it in magazines? Yes, this is the old school magazine world. Is there some information about it on the web? You know, are people asking for PDUs associated with it? Are people talking about it in the classroom? Have I done a web seminar on the topic, and have I looked at attendance? So there's all these different researching, but remember, you have two sides, the qualitative and the quantitative. You want to use both, not just one or the other. Because what you're fighting against, you should say it to yourself, in the future state analysis, you're fighting against false positives and you're fighting against false negatives and confirmation bias. With that said, I am El Dunno. You'll have the slides to do whatever you want with. I really appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the shares. Anyone have any questions or comments, thoughts?
Thank you, David. Just a quick note, I dropped the PDU claim code in the chat, and I may share the screen for the last 2 minutes.
Thank you all, by the way. Appreciate the feedback in chat.
Yeah, this is the claim code. And quickly I'll go for the end, how to get you PDUs. You have many resources and sources for that. One of them, the events that we offer in Northeast Ohio chapter. These are some of the website where you can get PDUs. And with that, that's the end of the session for today. I'll leave the PDU claim code in the screen, and I will open if any question, comments, or call back.
Yeah, you guys will all have access to PowerPoint, not the PDF, but you'll have the PowerPoint, and you can use any of the slides you want to use. Just reference SoftEd and how you do when you use the slides. I appreciate that, but otherwise you'll have at it. Yeah, so on the question of the book, look at Malcolm Gladwell. Matt Gladwell is a behavioral economist. He doesn't talk that way, but he is. And Tipping Point and David Goliath are two phenomenal books on the product management mindset. He also on watching out for false positives and false negatives. And I would read David Goliath first because you're gonna have a ton of aha moments. Oh my gosh, and then you'll see cause and effect better. He does a great job of trying to get us out of our cognitive biases. All right. Any other questions or comments? We'll have a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Session. Thank you.
Thank you all.